Sean, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mark. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining us today. Where are you joining us from?
So we're here in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina, enjoying this lovely fall weather.
Oh, yes, it has been really nice recently. Well, Sean, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and your organization and sort of your focus in the marketplace?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of QDS, or Quality Data Systems, based here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We sell and service financial technology, things like ATM machines and other things for the branches, for specifically banks and credit unions. We operate across roughly 14 states, from Pennsylvania to Miami to Louisiana. We have about 120 people. Been in business now 42 years, and are coming off a growth cycle of roughly doubling our revenue over the last 3 years, and it's been a fun ride. We operate as a faith-driven company, which is a little unique in the market. So we want to operate with excellence, and we want to be a great business so that we can give back to the communities we serve. And so it's been an amazing ride. I've been our CEO since 2012.
That's great, Sean. I think when you speak to the faith-based focus and giving back to the community, that ties right into, early on when ATMs came to market, there was a lot of talk around we're replacing all the tellers. And there definitely has been some shift in, how resource people are used at the banks. What do you think about how AI and how that applies, and what are you seeing in that space, especially in the financial industry?
Yeah, I mean, I really believe that AI is a force multiplier when used correctly. So in our organization, we use it for mundane things like recording meetings and giving valid transcripts. We have kind of an entry level HR tool that has our handbook and a number of our policies in there. So if someone just has a basic policy question, instead of having to get the HR team involved, we have an HR chat widget that can answer based off of our typical policies and procedures. And then we've been building one on our professional services side of the organization. Again, storing ways to configure machines, et cetera, that would allow both our internal salespeople and other departments not to have to necessarily bug a professional service person for maybe the eighth time answering the same question. So it allows them to get them answers quickly. I think as we look at our client side, things like micro loan decisioning, and how do you speed up some of the mundane processes that happen on the back end, like what level of underwriting are you comfortable with? Hey, how are we running an AI chatbot on the website that can give basic information? And I'm still blown away by some of our clients and how many people call the call center. Like, that's just, as a 43-year-old, that's like, I would never call the call center to, hey, what's my balance? So it's when you think about the amazing amount of just simple tasks and or questions that can be addressed by AI, I really see that that's at least the starting block, of foundation of what people are trying to implement.
Absolutely. I know, using your HR example, there's obviously some risk of it giving a wrong answer or doing something that ends up causing problems internally. So far, have you found that's been a challenge at all, or you find pretty high success on the
We
internal
found it pretty.
risks?
I mean, I would always use the trust but verify as we start to roll this stuff out. And again, depending on the tool you're using, we have elected to go with Copilot because we're an Office 365 shop. We're keeping everything behind the wall. So as a SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, we were very worried about data security and not having this stuff to the open internet. So, you know, I have found the more simple you make it and the documentation, the more accurate the responses, the more opportunities for multiple ways to potentially answer a question. Occasionally, you may get a wrong answer or you may need to seek clarification. But I mean, in my mind, as the owner, if we can handle 80% of the mundane, just basic questions of, how do I do this, or what's the cost for this healthcare, all that type of stuff in a matter of seconds, then worst case, HR can get involved when the employee doesn't feel like it's a correct answer.
Yeah, which to your point just becomes the verify aspect, which makes sense. And so now, as you turn towards the clients, and now it's not about an HR issue, but it's about accuracy and finance, and serving their customers. It sounds like you take a similar approach then, the trust but verify and making sure it's as bulletproof as possible.
Yeah, and it's I think when you get into financial services, it's all about what risk are you willing to tolerate. So, um, may not use an AI tool to lend somebody $4 million, but would I be willing to lend somebody 1,500 or 2,500 based on some kind of algorithm? So it's always like, where does it make sense? Where does it eliminate? And if there's just as much manual process to do a $2,500 loan as there is a $25 million loan, like, hey, maybe let's invest the AI to help speed up some of this stuff where our risk is inherently lower. Um, and then I think just, hey, again, are we getting the right answers? So AI chat and in the mobile app and all that, it much like if you go to McDonald's, like I find that the self order thing is more accurate than using a person sometimes. So
Yes.
if you're just trying to get quick information, it seems like a really good spot. And then how much you want to leverage it up and trust it to me is a tougher decision as you move into larger and more complex type things.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is if you think about your customer base, what you would recommend is a focus around simplifying customer service, speeding up low risk loans. And I know that's an example people point to in the marketplace. There was an automotive dealership that implemented AI to do sales and it sold a car to someone for $5, right? Because the person basically asked for it. And so it said yes. And so to your point, trust but verify. And we always talk about inserting people into the process, right? Making sure that, and I think that's where a lot of folks are being scared that like it's going to eliminate all these jobs. But I think we're both saying actually there are needs for checking and verifying and training and ensuring it's being done what it's told to do. Do you see that as a large shift in skill, or do you see that as a good fit for the resources most of the clients have already?
Well, I think if you look at automation in general, so part of our business is migrating mundane transactions to self service channels. And I think every institution is out there looking for ways to reduce operational costs while still increasing or at least keeping up with consumer demand. And as we know, everyone's, you know, desired speed is immediate and they always want the fastest service. They want it to be super convenient. I think Amazon has kind of trained us for that, so to speak. So if I can get my people doing the things that only they can do, like advising people on their financial journey and doing more wallet deepening conversations to recommend the right products and services to help someone be successful, then maybe there's a different channel that again they can get $1,000 out of their account in whatever denominations they want. That might be an ITM machine, or hey, I just need this information, or I have AI read the customer profile and come back to me with recommendations of, hey, based on their behaviors and their transactions, here's something that would actually help them. To me, that's where AI is helping support that person making a good recommendation versus just having an AI recommend it directly without any human filter.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And so is that, I know the banking industry is often known for, let's call it, living with the systems they have because the focus is on, the financial aspect, not on necessarily upgrades and updates to their systems. Are you finding putting these technologies on top of what is sometimes much older technology is a patchwork that works, or are you having to recommend upgrades to the infrastructure before they can leverage these tools?
I think it really depends. So, yes, banks in general get a reputation for being kind of laggards to technology, but they are often hamstrung by these big core providers or their key software vendors that run the institution, mobile banking, online banking. So, I think you're starting to see more of an arms race of core products like correlation that are much more open API. Hey, we're going to do this very well, but we're going to give you all these access points so you can pick kind of best of breed technologies, which is different than a lot of the competition that wanted you to have. If that core had 16 software products, they wanted you to have all 16 in kind of their environment. But that legacy system may be 20, 30, 40 years old. And so you're not able to necessarily layer on a robust AI piece to look at data that's not even in a SQL database. It may be even be in an Access database or an AS400 that's 25 years old. So it's not always as smooth as you would like it. So I think some people are trying to break away from kind of that legacy technology where they can, to then layer in some more of the advanced AI stuff that can work with mobile, online, etc.
Yeah. So I know that's one of the, we did some work in the healthcare manufacturing industry, and in that case, it wasn't, there was definitely AS400s in the enterprise, but we also had some challenges with IT wanting to hold the IP close to their chest. And so we were working on technicians being able to do work on these devices. They're very complex with multifunction components, and the technician needed access to like 35 different databases to be able to answer different questions, and IT didn't want to open those up. So have you found some of that too? Because now you're in financial industry, financial sector, it's even more sensitive, not so much maybe around IP, but around protecting the dollars and making sure there's no, um, modification or a back door being created. Do you find some other challenges with IT cooperating as well?
For sure. I mean, I would say every institution has their own fortitude around security. So some that is, they are Fort Knox and they keep everything locked down. I think many smaller institutions that may not have the ability to have that talent in house or necessarily take that posture, they can be a little more free to try on some stuff. And if it opens up a hole, they may not even be aware it opens up a hole. So there's a little more flexibility, I think, in the smaller institutions. And then as you kind of move up into the regionals or larger credit unions, or certainly the tier one national banks, like the level of security goes up dramatically. But you've also got people like Chase and Bank of America that they may spend $1 billion a year on technology. So they have a lot more resources with which to feel comfortable about deploying new things. They have innovation labs. They have a lot more control over how they roll out technology versus the 5 branch community bank that doesn't have a separate lab environment or whatnot. It's you go into production day one, it better work. And they may be using a third party outsourced IT company to provide managed services. So you never really know what you're getting into.
Yeah, no, that's always part of the challenge. And then the other piece, obviously, is the people side of it. As leader of your organization, obviously, you seem very supportive of new technology and finding ways to empower your people. But sometimes the people don't see it as empowerment; they see it as risk of reduction in their role and losing some of their power themselves. Have you found that by being the leader and supporting this, that's been enough to get everyone on board internally, or do you find the folks themselves being you happen to pick people that have appetite for change? What are your thoughts on your internal success?
I never speak in absolutes, so I would say there is never everyone is on board. I think the majority of the people that work here want to be excellent, and if there is a tool that is going to help them be excellent or reduce the things that are kind of a pain in the butt to do, I think they're on board. Um, you have that bell curve of you've got your early adopters. They're like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm going to play with it a ton. So maybe we have 5 or 10 of those people of the 120. There's people that like are right in the middle of like, once they see the value or they understand how to use it, they're going to use it for the 1 or 2 things that they think will help them. And then you have the people on the back end. They're like, I don't like this robot thing. I'm never going to use it. So you have the full spectrum. To me, it goes back to communication and leadership of, the goal of AI is not to eliminate jobs. The goal of AI is to make people more effective and do the things that only they can do. And if there are positions that are data heavy or are manual in nature and we find a way to automate that, hey, that allows you to move potentially into a different position, maybe elevated status. So I don't think we're necessarily seeing AI wipe out like the VP level of organizations because it can run all the spreadsheets, so to speak.
Right. I know it's a big piece of, we are seeing that obviously in big tech, Facebook, Microsoft, others have publicly stated that AI is driving rifts. But I think anything below enterprise, the mid market, I agree with you, Sean. It's empowering our people. So as we see our top line go up, our cost structure doesn't, because we're able to get so much more out of the folks we have, which is amazing.
And we have this covered. I mean, we are a relatively smaller company at 120 people, roughly 50 million in revenue. like I don't have a team of 30 people that, I could have 10% not show up for work and we're fine. Like we're still in a size that most of our areas maybe have a backup that's cross trained, but I mean it's a lot of smaller teams to where if Johnny is out, like that hurts us, and we don't want him to be out for a long period of time, or Jessica or whatever it is. So I think certainly at enterprise locations, if they have giant teams of people, they're able to flex more if a certain part of that force isn't there. We are not at that status that I need to trim 20% of every department to make ourselves more profitable, because we don't have the bandwidth and the scale yet to where that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think I'd agree. I think most of us in the mid market would say our people are probably leaving things on the table sometimes, even because there's work still to be done, but we have to keep our staffing levels in line. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
agree.
And we're
Makes a lot of
we're
sense.
big on the whole human here. So again, if it's something that allows my people to get the work done they need to get done during the day and not take stuff home after 5, or not feel, I mean, we talk a lot about burnout and workload, and we're trying to figure out this resource allocation thing. So it is an often request around here, well, can we get another person in our department? It's always like, well, is there a process that can be refined? The most expensive thing we can do is add people. So let's talk about what the actual problem is. Is it workload? Do we have a sudden spike? Is this spike going to last? So just trying to teach our departmental heads to think more business minded, and are there other ways? And to me, that's where, hey, is there an AI tool or a way that can save 20% of the time wasted on jotting down meeting notes and having to spend an hour to write a recap email? For sure. So always looking for those ways to improve without just having to add bodies.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And to your point, not only is the most expensive, but then you're tied to that. And then, and to your point, when you have an organization focused on people and trying to be supportive of them, if you get to a spot you have to make those changes to reduce again, that's also politically painful, not just the money. Yeah,
Yeah,
completely agree.
we are
Makes
not a
sense.
fan of layoffs around here.
Yes, exactly. So when you think about the financial industry, obviously call centers is an easy answer, though a lot of industries are deploying AI to sort of reduce that volume impact to their people or empower them to respond faster. Would you say that in a more specialized area, is it probably decision making, or like you'd mentioned, wallet size increase? Where do you think AI is going to have the heaviest impact for fintech or
I mean,
finance in
I
general?
really think trending and data is kind of like, what can AI see that I may not be able to see? So, there's probably every lending committee or lending leader that are looking at, do we have loans that are past due or at risk of going to default? What's our exposure? So the amount of data that AI can go through, and at the speed, now you're starting to see more trending. And do we catch things, and are we more proactive with those clients because we've got kind of this, I hate to say virtual watchdog, but hey, we're just feeding all this data. And especially for maybe a regional that's got a state of Florida and Georgia, like no one person that can kind of pay attention to it all. Now we've got these trending dashboards or kind of signals, if you will, that would at least allow a human to go pay attention and go, well, what is going on with this loan or this business? Let me look at their financials. So to me, it's a lot more of like hints and like, hey, check over here type stuff, that just you do that across an entire financial institution, whether it's lending, whether it's, hey, this checking account is running abnormal behavior. And so how quickly can we see that happen and maybe detect a fraudulent thing that's going on because the behavior has completely changed and a human isn't going to pay attention to that, versus having AI pay attention to, hey, this person comes and does this withdrawal every Friday, and now they've come every day and taken out 10 times that amount. Like something's going on. And so, again, I think just having that ability to really understand what's going on throughout many pockets of the institution and flag unusual behavior and trends, to me, is a huge value add.
So really, that just business insight and really giving the institution the opportunity to get ahead of coming problems based on
Exactly.
those insights. Yeah, that makes a
Exactly.
lot of sense.
I mean, no
Well,
one
that's
wants to
great.
have to write off a loan or lose a customer. And so if you can get some of that on the front end, you're able to respond and react, versus they're out the door, they've closed their account, and you're going, well, was anyone paying attention? And it's like, well, let's look at the last 3 months of data. And all of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, here's some anomalies. Why didn't we catch this? And now you've got AI that can sit there and go, hey, over here.
Do you feel like that's going to require some realignment of responsibilities or like kind of a definition of a new role to, because obviously customer satisfaction, customer management at some level exists, but I think what you're describing is a more advanced view of it that might be a new way to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think IT can unfortunately become like the catch-all bucket, and IT is certainly important. And then there's certainly the battle between the CIO and the CISO, often of how do we blend kind of technology and operations with security. And so now I think the rise of like data analytics and data warehousing and like you're starting to see kind of more data departments being built and leveraging tools like Power BI and all these things that again bring insights to life. So people who are running lines of business now have access to a lot more data. And so while it might not be the data person that's making the decision, they're working with each of those business lines of what do you need to see, and then we tweak the tool to then show them a dashboard or an email alerting system that can help that come on. So I think data is becoming increasingly more valuable across really any business, but certainly in the financial institution landscape.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, Sean. Well, thank you for the time today. That's what we had. Any parting thoughts you had for the audience around AI and the financial industry?
I mean, I think it just comes back to, we are a people first organization, and it's always our job as leaders to communicate with clarity and give people the why. And at the end of the day, understanding that this is a tool to just help people make their jobs easier versus a job eliminator. I think that's our job to communicate and walk it out and then celebrate those successes. So as you have those wins in the organization that may not seem like a big deal or it only affects one department, we at least want to call that out of, hey, we've been trying to innovate. Here's an example of AI solving a problem for us, and here's how it's made that team more effective. So just putting it back in front of the employee base of we are winning. No one lost their job in that area, and here's the biggest wins that they've been able to claim over the last 6 months by implementing that tool. So I think celebrating the wins, being clear, and just using it as an enhancer versus a replacer. That's our job to communicate as leaders.
Absolutely. I think it's really good points. Well, thank you, Sean, for the time. This is great.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.